Hey everyone, welcome to another very special episode of Drink While You Think. I'm Kenji. That guy over there in the purple is...
I'm Matthew.
And look there, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Blake. Blake Oliver's here with us. Woo!
Hey Kenji, hey Matt, thanks for having me. And
his setup is so much cooler than ours.
Oh,
Like he has this professional microphone.
Yeah, I'm a podcaster, so
he's a podcaster. Look at that! Oh man,
that's so awesome.
He's got geared,
So this is a Blue Yeti mic, which anybody can get. I mean, they're like $129 on Amazon. And doesn't it make your voice just sound so, radio-like?
It does,
especially if you get real close to it. So yeah, this is what I use with David Leary when we do the Cloud Accounting podcast.
Nice. Well, while you're doing that, tell us who's Blake Oliver. What in the heck are you doing these days, man?
I started my career as a bookkeeper, and that was when I was an unemployed musician, basically after college. I majored in music, so I got into QuickBooks bookkeeping as a way to feed my music habit. So I had a bunch of small bookkeeping jobs, just hourly, and it was really flexible, so it was good for music. I could do my music whenever and work in the bookkeeping around it. So I decided eventually to go back to school for accounting because I got really into accounting technology. And that was right when cloud was getting big. And I thought, oh, this is really cool. I actually enjoy this. It's great. And so I enrolled at UCLA in their accounting program at night. And I started an online bookkeeping company around the same time called Cloud Sourced Accounting. Oh. And we were I was the second zero bookkeeping partner in the U.S., according to their listings. So there was somebody on the East Coast, and I was the only one west of the Mississippi, which is really cool. So kind of while I was taking classes, I grew that firm, and we ended up having 12 people, and we merged with Aprio Cloud. Back then it was called HPC, about in 2015. And then I went to work for a firm called Armanino, a big firm, because I thought the big firms would teach me something, but I ended up, not to think too highly of myself, but I ended up teaching them a little bit more, I think, than they taught me. And I learned the big firms are making it up too as they go. And then I got pulled away into software. There was a little company called Flowcast that started up a mile away from where I live here in LA. And they had like 30 people, and they were growing really fast, making close management software for internal accounting teams. A lot of finance teams in like mid-market companies using them for their monthly close checklist. And they hired me as a product marketer because they wanted a CPA who could, talk and write and go out and do events and stuff. And as you might be able to tell, I kind of enjoy doing that kind of stuff. So
yes, you do.
That's how I ended up being the CPA on the marketing team. And now I am at another software company called Jirav, and we are doing financial modeling software. So plans, reports, dashboards, basically this sophisticated FP&A software, and bringing that to CPA firms who really never had a solution. So I'm excited.
I see there over your, left shoulder, there is a Jirav looming. There he is.
That's my big one here. The little one, my son keeps stealing. I don't know where that went.
That's well, if any one of us, if Matt and I happen to be at the office today, we could have both the Jiravs on doing, because one of them sits kind of right behind me over my right shoulder in the desk I usually sit in. So shoot, we should have done that. But we're pumped to have you here, man. So let's get to the important stuff. What are you drinking today?
So I am having an old staple. This is like my, this is like my version of Budweiser, which is a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Oh, that's a classic, dude.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
So this is my go-to whenever I can't think of what to get. And then I have the Avalera koozie.
Ooh, nice. Rocking them all out there. Okay, Matthew, what are you drinking today?
Just to annoy you.
Ooh, Pliny.
Pliny.
Is it, how do you say it? Pliny the Elder, or is it the Pliny?
I think it's just Pliny, because they have Pliny the Younger as well.
They have the Younger as well, too. It's even hoppier.
Pliny the Elder. So I'm going with the Pliny the Elder because, thank you, OnPay.
The folks at OnPay sent us these for saying they loved watching the show. So I had mine last week, and not to influence you, Matthew, it's the one beer I've given a 5 rating to on the Untappd app. But But I'm a huge fan of IPAs, and that's a killer one. I guess, Blake, you're probably more used to that out there. We do not get that on the East Coast very often, but that's a West Coast beer, right?
Yeah, and it's really hard to get here. It only comes out once a year, and a bar will get like one keg of it.
Yeah.
And there's actually a site that tracks it,
Whoa.
so that you can find out where they're going to tap it, and then you can hopefully get there before they run out by the end of the night. Some places sell tickets. It's crazy.
No way.
Yeah.
Whoa. See, I told you this is a big deal, Matthew.
It's nice.
Luckily, the one of the places down the street from me gets a keg every year, and they don't get too busy because we're out in the valley, and people don't want to drive out to the valley in LA. I also brought my lunch because I was going to eat before this, but I was busy watching the press conference.
Yes. I'll share what I'm drinking, and I think we can get right into the news because it seems like there may be some. But I thought this was a very apropos beer. I can't remember, Matthew, if I've had this one on Drink While You Think before, but it seemed to be a good one for this one.
One of us is drinking that while we're out.
Yeah, this is it's a kind of a local kind of, I don't want to say it's a classic, but it's one that people drink a lot here, by Wild Heaven over in Avondale, not too far away from you, Matthew, kind of near my old house. But figured the emergency drinking beer was very apropos today and just in this time we're in. So I'm going to crack this bad boy open. Always enjoy good emergency drinking beer. But I'll say, maybe to set us up, cheers, everyone. Blake, glad you're here, my friend.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
So to Matthew, what have I been saying to you all week and you just did it? Don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face.
Matthew, don't touch your face. So here's the rule I'm going to make. This is going to help us while we're on, while condition us here is, I don't care if you use that, no touching the face. If you see someone else touching their face during this podcast or during this video podcast, you can call them out and that person has to drink. I don't know if that's a deterrence or maybe it's an encouragement. But
it doesn't help that during the press conference, the president and everybody there was touching the microphone and shaking hands. I'm thinking to myself, guys, come on, follow your own advice.
Social distancing. Come on, people. Read the book.
The press are all sitting in chairs really close together. They should have spread them out. It would have been funny if they spread them out like 6 feet apart on the lawn.
Yeah. I saw one of the guys on there. I can't remember because it was interesting. They had all these industry execs from CVS and Walgreens and others who were up there with them, and they'd come up and speak. Matthew didn't see it. I was watching it. Sounds like Blake was watching it. And the president would shake their hand after he's, thanks, Mike, for coming up. And then one guy actually kind of gave him the elbow. And so it was like, almost like a reminder, like, dude, didn't we just talk about this?
Like 2 minutes ago. This is
2 minutes ago.
It's about this.
You're declaring a national emergency. That's what Blake and I are referring to. I think we're trying to speed up the cadence of dropping these videos. But yeah, it's Friday the 13th technically of March, and they just had President Trump just did the national emergency announcement is what we're referring to. So pretty wild and crazy there. But I guess, this is just dominating all news. I'm not sure how to avoid it. I was thinking about more. I know it's been in some Slack channels that, Blake, you and I are in. We've talked about it, Matthew. It's kind of interesting watching the rest of the world adapt to remote working.
Yes.
And a lot of us are like, this is stuff we've been doing. So it's kind of
until the schools let out and then stuff got real.
Yeah. I was thinking I'm set, right? Because I work remote. I work from this office in my apartment. My wife goes to the office normally, but she's set up to work from home too. And we were just having a great time. We're thinking, oh, this is kind of nice. And then LAUSD, Los Angeles School District, announced today they're closing as of Monday.
Yeah.
So now our son is going to be home and he's 5 years old. So it's not like we can tell him to just entertain himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's going to be the challenge, right? I think otherwise, I would say we were all pretty well equipped for this. That to me is is going to be the challenge of those with younger kids like you guys. Matthew and I have teenagers, so they try to hide from us anyway. Don't yours, Matthew, when they're home?
They like to shut their door in their room. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it'll be interesting seeing what kind of impact that's got with productivity for people who are used to working at home.
I'll tell you our plan. It's first to buy a lot of emergency drinking beer. And then after that, it's we're going to work in shifts. So we're recruiting my brother-in-law to babysit as well. He's a jazz bass player. And all the events are canceled. You know, like
Yeah.
he was actually joking last week that he's, you know, we were texting him and saying, hey, you know, Alex, make sure that like you probably shouldn't be going to places with big crowds or anything like that. And he said, don't worry, I play jazz. But even that's canceled now. So he'll be available. And I'm wondering, you know, like what the impact is going to be for our clients on this. Like small businesses are getting hit really hard. And I'm wondering if you guys have any perspective on that yet. It's probably too soon to know.
It is too soon, I think. But that's my biggest concern. I mean, I think for a cloud firm like us, that's my biggest concern is what the financial impact on just revenues to us. Are we going to lose clients? And then also, we do have a segment of our client base that are not just completely kind of subscription charged. So you got to be thinking. I think firms have to be thinking about accounts receivable, like who's out there, and probably ramping up collections efforts a little tighter. So that concerns me.
Yeah, like if you specialize in any hospitality or restaurants or anything like that, your clients are going to be hurting a lot. And
restaurants and hospitality, you're toast right now.
Yeah,
it's going to be a little bit brutal. So I think that's. I think. Yeah. Or travel, yeah. But they'll be insulated. I mean, I think it's always hard to think through all the ripple effects, right? Like what else? You know, Matthew, I was thinking of, you and I haven't even talked about this yet, but I mean, we at Acuity focus a lot on SaaS technology companies. You're like, oh, great, it's intellectual property. You know, there's not a whole thing. You don't have these supply chains and some of these issues that get disrupted. But you're like, well, are we going to see a restriction in venture capital funding? And will that have an impact? You know, with the markets have an impact on venture, which typically does have an impact. Would you agree or disagree with that, Matthew?
Well, the claims have been that there's all this dry powder in these private equity venture capital funds. And presumably those funds were in cash. They were not in, like, those people don't invest in the stock market, right? And they don't hold cash in the stock market. So supposedly there's all this dry powder out there.
And by dry powder, do you mean like cash ready to invest because there's nowhere else they can put it?
Right. There's all this cash ready to invest. Supposedly, that's been the story, is that there's all dry powder and they had this money to invest, that this private equity had to deploy all this capital. So if that's true, which 90% of what comes out of Silicon Valley venture capitalists is not necessarily completely accurate, it's based in truth. If that was true, then man, there's a bunch of deals to be made right now. But if you're, I tell you what, if you have cash right now, invest in the private equity and venture capital funds that are starting now, because valuations just went down. So.
Yeah, I guess it still makes me a little nervous though. I mean, it's just, to me, again, that exercise of, I was talking to an accounting firm earlier this week, a more traditional one, and he was like, dude, we're so busy doing tax returns right now. Like, yeah, we have some people coming into the office, and he was like feeling really good about the amount of returns they're doing. They're having a great, March and February. And I'm like, yeah, but what about beyond that? I mean, of course we're all kind of busy right now in the middle of tax season, but like, what's, have you thought a little further, like into the summer, into the rest of the year, about what your typical clients look like?
Well, and now tax season probably is going to be extended.
Yeah.
The AICPA is calling for it to, all the deadlines to get pushed to October 15th. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I saw that, but I haven't heard yet whether or not I don't think the IRS has made a move on it yet, but I think that's the recommendation of AICPA.
Mnuchin said he's open to it. He's open to delaying it. He hasn't said what date though.
Yeah.
Taxes are due Monday, so I hope they come up with something pretty quick here.
Yeah.
But what do you got?
Going back to that, I was actually encouraged by today's press conference. I think there's a good chance they'll ramp up the testing like they need to. Yeah. And I think the market's actually responded positively.
Yeah,
I hadn't looked at that yet.
The market was already responded positively today, so I don't know what it responded to the press conference, but it was already back a bunch today. I have a question for you guys. Have you guys looked at this proposal to get rid of payroll tax, like the Medicare, Medicaid tax for employer and employee?
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. It doesn't sound like it's got enough support on even the Republican side because it's so expensive. It's like twice as much as any of the Obama era stuff.
Well, it's incredibly expensive, and it just ignores all these restaurant hospitality workers that are just being sent home.
Right. Yeah. If you can't work, then you can't benefit from the tax.
You're like all these people that are getting sent home.
Yeah.
that are hourly workers that are just probably need it the most. I was trying to figure out what I would propose if I was in their shoes. It just seems like there's something else that's more logical.
Just send a check to everyone.
Oh, you could do that, Andrew Yang?
Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
But you don't have to do it every month, just for a period of months. Just start sending a check to every American every month for enough to live on, right? Enough to buy.
I can't believe that you just are a proponent of sending checks in any mechanism whatsoever.
Oh, crap.
You caught him.
Well, no, I'm just assuming that the government doesn't have another thing.
That's probably a fair assumption.
You just posed.
So I think that Donald Trump should personally Venmo every American $1,000 a month.
I just think that I got to call you out about an idea that you just wanted to send checks. That's awesome.
Speaking of checks, I want to say something here that I've never said to anybody. I think it's been a long enough time for me to go on the record. But for the longest time, when I was a Xero ambassador, and I received, actually, I started working with Xero, like doing stuff for them, and they would reimburse me for travel and whatnot years ago. And I laughed so hard the first time I got a reimbursement paper check in the mail from them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We still get those, don't we? I think we still get.
Are they still doing it that way?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think last time I had an expense like for either speaking or something at theirs. I'm not sure, but
well, it's so ironic because they're operating at like a mid-market or an enterprise level, and the software just hasn't caught up. Right? There's not like really useful, robust solutions.
Yeah,
or at least there weren't back then. I don't. Maybe there are now.
There are now. Did you hear, Blake? Trump did mention about waiving interest on student loans.
Yes.
During
pausing it. Yeah.
Pausing it. I hadn't heard that come through anywhere at all before. That's the first I've even heard mention of that. They're pausing it. He said indefinitely. So he kind of left it open. I was thinking that's interesting. I have a little bit of a harder time drawing a correlation to current issues now, but I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea.
I think the justification was that all these students are getting sent home. And so I guess the idea is the thing is, you don't start accruing interest on your loans until you graduate, right? Yeah, until you go to work.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
But I guess it could help for people who are like graduating now.
Recent grads, yeah.
And can't get jobs, and now they have to pay student loans.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll help.
Matthew, have a drink. You guys both have a drink. You're touching your faces.
Damn it.
Sorry to interrupt the flow.
Well, I haven't left the house, all day, so I can do whatever I want, and I'm not going to affect myself.
That's true.
I've left the house, but I've tried to wash my hands appropriately.
Okay.
And I don't mind drinking. This is kind of a big beer.
Yeah, those are strong too. Planet of the Elder is no joke. You're going to be feeling pretty good.
I think it was, I felt pretty good last week after I had. I think it was
8%.
8? Yeah, I thought it was 8. What do you, so, okay. Back to our industry. I mean, the effect of all of this, and we've a little bit been saying, well, lucky us who already went and made the move to remote. I mean, I don't think any of us were that prescient or about we knew the future was coming like this, but I think we all probably did it for different reasons why we went remote or the cloud. But I don't know what are the firms that have not made that move. Are they in real trouble right now? Do we think?
I'm sure that they're feeling some pain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially if the tax deadline does not get delayed, right? I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of them are still business as usual, actually. I haven't heard about offices, big offices closing or anything like that. I mean, my wife's office is still open. That's a company of 50,000 people, and there's been no communication whatsoever yet.
Really?
About anyone working from home or anything like that.
I think, I mean, the big thing, I've been reading a lot about this, that the thing that resonated with me that the firms aren't prepared for is not the work. It's that they haven't built a client acquisition model that isn't based on personal relationships and networking.
So they won't be able to get new clients this season because that's how they're used to doing it. So
Kenji and I have spent most of the last 7 years together. Oh my God. Moving from acquiring clients just based on his and my relationships to a different client acquisition model. And
I think that's really smart. Yeah.
That
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
That's something that in everything I've read is the thing that's most resonating to me. I like the best decision we've made because, teleworking doesn't seem that novel to us anymore. I mean, it was maybe when we started doing it 7 years ago, but, working from home, the concept that we thought we couldn't scale acuity on the two of our backs on relationships was something we held core to ourselves. And then we built a client acquisition model that was not dependent on the two of us. Now we still get clients because of the two of us, but the client acquisition model is definitely not contingent on us right now.
I would love to check in with you guys in a few months and see if the shift to online has naturally increased your funnel.
So I was talking to some other entrepreneurs and we were kind of sharing like what are our biggest concerns, what do we think our biggest opportunities are. That is one, Blake, that I'm hoping is one for us and for a lot of our, I think of some of our fellow friends firms who are really similar. Like, shouldn't this create, in many regards, a real wave, a push by small businesses to go, you know what? I kind of want to work with accountants who have better continuity opportunities through they're already working remote and they're not going to be taken down by this. And I'm not dependent on my bookkeeper or accountant driving on site. Yeah. Like, I feel like there's an opportunity for all of us who've kind of made a little bit of an early move. I mean, it'd be cool to check back in with us and others, see if maybe, I mean, I hate to say that I think that would come at the expense of some of these firms who just have not moved. But.
Well, let's just think about what's going to happen, right? Let's say I'm a client of a firm that is, doing things much the same as always. So I would get all my paper documents and I put them in a folder or a shoebox and I bring them to the office and we sit there across the desk from each other and we do the return, kind of in real time. What's my experience going to be like this year?
When I won't shake hands with you or I won't even like you.
Well, so now I can't come to the office. I'm calling my accountant saying, all right, how do I get this stuff to you? And they've never done it that way before. They've never received documents. They're going to be scrambling.
Stuff. Hey, start faxing this stuff, Blake. Fax it.
Sorry, Matthew. I'm a millennial and I don't know what a fax machine is. So,
I think that's where. I mean, I don't know. Again, could be good opportunities for the kind of more modern firms, but the other ones maybe it's a little trouble.
It's going to create some churn, right? It's going to create some friction that will inevitably result in churn. And where are those people going to go? They're going to go online and they're going to find firms like Acuity.
Cross our fingers and hope. But
I love that.
I was talking also.
Like seriously, I hadn't even thought about this until you brought this up, Matthew. Like this is genius. I mean, I think it's really going to happen. I mean, last week I only got like obsessed about coronavirus like on Thursday of last week. That's when it started to hit me. I was looking at these numbers and thinking, oh my God, if it just doubles every week, that's how you get to like the CDC's worst case estimates are, I want to bring it up. It's, millions and millions of people infected and, hundreds of thousands to over 1 million dead.
Yeah.
And that's because of the exponential doubling of infections. If you have 1,000 infections in a week, that's 2,000. Then another week, 4,000, then 8,000, then 16, then 32,000. Very quickly, you're up over 100,000 and then 1 million in just like 10 weeks.
Yeah, and the pace it's been moving at that, I think a little bit faster than doubling every week. I thought I saw, it's that thing they call it was the R something or other. It's
R naught.
R naught.
The reproductive rate.
It was around 6 or 7, right? So I think 6 or 7 days, which means, I guess, is that right? When I think about that, right? It doubles every 7.
So
how it works, but
different studies are looking at different like groups of people. And I basically got obsessed about this like a week ago from Thursday. So I was out at dinner with Samantha, my wife, and we were having drinks and I was just reading some like news stuff coming through. And I was wondering to myself, like, well, how bad could this really be? So I started digging into some of the science. And apparently epidemiology is not actually all that complicated from a math standpoint. It's mostly just an exponential function. So you start with one person who has the virus in Wuhan, China, right, at a meat market. And how many people on average will that one person infect is the reproductive rate. That's R naught. If you don't do anything, and if you don't know that this is happening, how many people will they infect? And all these studies, the one of the Princess cruise ship is considered pretty good because that was like a case study, like a contained environment in which they weren't doing anything. The typical case infects 2.3 to 2.6 other people. So that's where you get the doubling, more than doubling.
Yeah, that's
right?
where you get. Okay, that's where you get it from. Yeah.
And then there's also the interval, which is how long does it take for that to happen? So that could be anywhere from 4 days to 14 days, depending on the numbers. But recently, people have kind of settled on 7 days. So every week, it more than doubles.
Yeah.
And that's how you can get to a really scary situation. Even though we only have, 1,000 cases in the United States, in 10 weeks, that could be a million.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you see Blake or Matthew? I'm going to forget the guy. We can link it up, but he wrote a really good piece on Medium, and it was highly analytical. And he was one of the first about a couple weeks ago to come up with the concept. But he also put out there, he created a Google Sheets model that he basically distributed for free and said, hey, you can go copy it. And I'll pull it up because I actually downloaded it, and I was kind of playing around with it today. So,
I made one too.
You made the same one? If this coronavirus work from home model, is that the one you did too, Blake?
No, I think a lot of people have been doing this. I made one and I put it up on the Jirav blog.
That's right.
Yeah. So
this guy made one, and basically kind of just determined for people like, hey, you come in here and you input all these different variables, in the blue cells, and it'll give you kind of an idea about whether you need to close the office this week, you need to close it tomorrow immediately, and so it's just kind of really interesting that people are out there creating this model. I guess you did the same thing too. Is that right?
Yeah. Can I show you guys mine? Because I'm kind of proud of it.
Love it. Yeah.
Okay.
Do it, man.
So this is my model, and I could count this as.
We are total accountants.
I could count this as work because I couldn't actually it was on some Monday and I'm like trying to do work and I'm like, I can't do any work because I'm obsessed with this. I keep reading about it. So I said, I'm in marketing, so I'll do a blog post and I will just build a model and share it and talk about it.
Oh,
because
awesome.
We do financial modeling software. So this is related, right?
Really?
So on this blog post, I talk about the theory of it, right? So here's the equation. And it looks fancy, but it's actually just not that complicated once you put it into a spreadsheet. Just like a summation, which you can do, in a spreadsheet.
And I have to say, for modeling, Jirav is much better than Excel. Just from my experience,
Well, so the limitation I had with this is I thought about doing it in Jirav, but we only model out monthly, and this is happening much faster than that.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So I built this model here. So here you have days. Or intervals, right? So intervals are every time the thing doubles, or every time you multiply by the reproductive rate. And then, based on your interval, you can calculate how many days it's been since the start of the model. So this is every 7 days, right? And then just for convenience, I said, okay, let's assume we want to be able to say, where are we in the model right now? So so you can put a little X there. So as I scroll down, you can see we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables, right? We have the starting number of infected, which we're just going to start with 1. We have the serial interval, which is how long it takes for the disease to get transmitted, which is around 7 days in this case, it seems. Fatality rate, that is widely divergent. It could be anywhere from 0.5% to 5%, depending on the healthcare system.
Yep.
And if the healthcare system gets overloaded, like in Italy, it goes way up. So this doesn't account for that. We're just assuming that it's going to be 1% on average. And then you have that basic reproduction number, which I put as 2.3. So we multiply the number of infected by this every interval. And then this is the reproduction number if we implement controls, right? If we reduce social interaction, if we do social distancing, disinfecting stuff.
Rules.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
So here's the scary part. So here's what happens with uncontrolled spread. So there's no reduction in the reproductive rate, which is just 2.3 the whole way.
2.3 all the way through, yeah.
Fatality rate is 0.01 the whole way. And then here's infected. And I'm just multiplying last intervals infected by the reproductive rate. That's all this is, right?
Yeah.
And that's what that math equation is doing. It's just, it's math, so it looks complicated, but in a spreadsheet, it's not. And you can see how the number of infected every week jumps, right? So in the United States, I think we have 40 deaths right now. So let's say we're at interval 11, just approximately. That means that we have over 9,000 cases, which makes sense because we haven't been testing a lot. So we don't know how many people we have. So we probably have 10,000 cases. So next week it'll be 21,000, 50,000, 115. 264,000, here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are 42 days later, and we're at 1,000,000.
So 42 days later and you started this, you said last week, I'd be in this week.
So this would be like, it's not exact because like we're in between this right now. And also the model is, very basic and whatever. But, even if you change the numbers, because of exponential doubling, right? As long as the reproductive rate is over 2, you eventually get to a crazy number. Maybe it takes
you get to 1 million somewhere out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 5 and 6 weeks out. So
that's before September.
Dude, that's in May.
Well, and this is why you're actually seeing the White House take things really seriously all of a sudden, because this has hit people, right? The math doesn't lie. And like, you can see like in 100 days, you have, actually the entire population of the United States would be infected because of the exponential stuff. So you're talking, here, between here and here, actually by this point, I think everybody's been infected. And you've got, the Spanish flu killed about this many people in 1918.
And that's and again, like there's a lot of assumptions and basics here, but I counted out the number of weeks. That's about 13 weeks.
That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's about
8.
a quarter.
Yeah.
So
that's June, end of June.
Yeah. So that's, of course, if we don't do anything, right? But the good news is like, if you do stuff, which we are starting to do, if you implement controls and you reduce that reproductive rate, which is all this is the same thing above with a lower reproductive rate. So let's say that we implement controls. And this one actually is like, let's do it let's say we did it this week.
Yeah.
This scenario 3, then you can see, look how much better it is.
Wow.
So instead of, ignore these ones because these don't make sense because it's the model only really goes out like 2 months. Trying to show it crazy up. Yeah. But, we're looking at, the Spanish flu epidemic kind of deaths versus 10,000.
Yeah.
Which is less than a typical flu season.
Right.
Now, obviously more people would die, probably closer to like, I don't know, the 40,000 number eventually.
Yeah.
As it goes up and then down. But like 40,000 is like how many the flu kills every year. So this is actually a really good outcome. It just means we had 2 flus instead of 1 flu.
Yeah.
I
agree. I agree with you though, but that's really cool. You did that. I saw you on social, you put that out there, but I hadn't just look at it. So it's actually so much cooler that you get to walk us through it right here. And we get to see it, like hear your thinking behind it. But I agree with you. That's what's been interesting to me as well, is I'm a pretty rational person. I'm not a big alarmist about things, but when it starts coming to things that are math problems, like, right, it's a math challenge, then suddenly like, okay, I'm interested. And then when you realize, to your point, these infectious diseases are more complicated, but like it is kind of a bit of it's a math game.
It's math. It's not politics. It's math. Yeah. Math doesn't lie. Yeah. And you can see here now, like this is what it looks like visually, and you can see how dramatic it is, right? Like right now we're at this point here, 7. Yeah. So like it doesn't look bad.
No.
But then watch what happens, right? So
yeah. Well, and we're seeing again countries like Italy, and we're worried that France is kind of on the way there as well too. We're starting to experience some of this.
It's terrible what's happening in Italy, but I think it's super good for the United States that we saw that happen, and they're like 10 days ahead of us.
Yeah, so they're not that far. They're basically only a column or 2 ahead.
Right. But if you implement the controls 1 or 2 weeks ahead, let's say it's 2 weeks, it makes a gigantic difference. And that's what this tries to show, is that this is if you do it like 3 weeks later, and this is if you do it 3 weeks earlier.
Oh my God.
It's because of exponential doubling. A small amount of time makes a humongous difference because we're multiplying instead of adding.
Exactly.
And this is what's so hard for people to understand. And I'm totally sympathetic to it because we don't encounter exponential growth in our daily lives. And accountants don't either, right? We're used to steady 5%, 10% growth, that kind of thing, maybe lower than that. That's what we've been taught.
Yeah, at best compounding, but not exponential. Yeah. So it's crazy. That's awesome. This is why maybe we don't get that many views, but like the ones we do are like all of our friends, because this is the stuff we love. Like, hey, let's go and have a beer and talk about things that are interesting to us, which is super fascinating to me.
super fascinating to but that's okay.
And to me, like, everybody understands things in different ways, right? They say some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, right? I would say you could probably even break that down further, and you could say some people are, formula learners, some people are spreadsheet learners. And for me, doing this, I was doing this on Sunday, like all day. That is what made me realize what is happening.
Yeah,
because I think in spreadsheets, right? That's so.
I think about how many times we talk to our clients and tell them that, that's what financials are, where accounting is. It's another vehicle of communication. It's probably one that a lot of our clients feel uncomfortable with communicating that way. But for us, accountants, for many people, again, financial statement is a form of communication. We're telling a story about the business. It may not be the story that all business people want to tell, but like for us, that's our comfort zone right there. So yeah, dealing in terms of spreadsheets and debits, credits, numbers, kind of a good place for us to be.
And it gives us control, right? It gives us a feeling like we know what's going to happen and we can do something about it.
Yeah. So. I just feel bad for Matthew, who had to sit here. Like both of us got to show kind of our spreadsheets. I took somebody else's and modified it. Blake created one like entirely. And poor Matthew doesn't even have a show and tell for his coronavirus spreadsheet. I'm sorry, Matthew.
I'm good.
He's the one with Pliny the Elder. He's winning.
He is winning. He's got that, and he's also like, hey, how about you guys do that, and I'll figure it out.
Thank you, Untappd.
Yeah,
it's actually a really good beer.
Seriously, that's like the best swag of all time. Did you get just one bottle, or did they send you a box?
They sent two for each of us. They sent us a little Untappd box. We haven't.
Kenji would take on both.
Yeah, we haven't dropped it yet, but that episode's going to drop, I think, today later on, and it's cool. We kind of do a reveal. It was just nice of those guys to do that. Like,
we are totally up for bribery. So if Jirav wants
send more beers this way. But I think the other thing we're going to do too.
If
noted.
The other thing I think we're gonna do. We were talking to our marketing team internally, and that's as we said, hey, I want to up. Like we kind of do this every Friday, and we've been kind of like we put it out like a week later. We haven't been real quick on that. I'm like, I want to up the cadence of this because honestly, during this coronavirus time, like we want to still hang out with our friends. Like this is probably going to be one of the better ways to like actually catch up with our friends and just see how everybody's doing and have a drink and maybe talk about what's going on. I mean, so I'm like, hey, let's add another one to the week. That way we just have more opportunities to spend time with our friends. So
I love it.
Kenji's not going to meet in person with me, so this is going to be the only time we'll talk now because of the coronavirus.
We'll do our regular meeting deal, but Are we going to do it? No. Well, you and I will get on Zoom, but like I'm not. We'll still have a regular meeting, but
like on Tuesday mornings. We're not doing that live,
man. Do you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem? Come on, man. We got to be a good example out there.
Oh,
just like the guy who gave the elbow bump to Trump there. He was being a good example.
That was really great and awkward. It was
super awkward.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, Trump was not happy about it. I don't think. I think he was kind of like, "Oh yeah, that thing, whatever."
Discouraging meetings of 10 people or more.
What do you think the odds are that Trump
look at how many times you just touch your face, Matt. You just touch your face 4 times right there in like 3 seconds. So I mean, can I trust you to be around you?
So I want to take odds from you guys on whether Trump gets the coronavirus because he won't stop shaking hands with people.
Well, they say that he probably already has it because of the Brazilian person he shook hands with that already infected people. But he won't take the supposedly won't take the test. He's got to.
They've had to give him the test. Come on, that can't be right.
Like his physician's got to be able to trump that, right? Oh,
I mean, it sure seems like. I mean, I don't know. He was with the Brazilian guy.
They should just secretly give him the test. It's a national security issue.
Exactly.
Just, Mr. Trump, I didn't get a swab. Just a routine swab.
Just a quick one, real quick. Just,
What's this for? We're creating a vaccine, and we need your superior.
Your superior, yes. We know that you have the ultimate in genetics, and like we need to model it after you. And
you clearly don't have coronavirus, so we want to build the vaccine using your genetic material.
We need the ultimate baseline example for what we're all shooting for. So that's what we're doing. The things we come up with here on Drink While You Think. But
it's a good thing nobody watches this show, right?
It is a good thing. Again, that's why Matthew and I do it. We're like, nobody really watches it because we just,
like our 12 viewers.
So you guys can.
I do enjoy it.
You and David can always come here for a safe space because people actually listen to the Cloud Accounting podcast. But if you guys ever want a safe space just to spout on, you and David can come on here.
You and David can talk about whatever you want when you want to say.
I would love to get a crossover episode going sometime.
We're going to do that. I've already got plans for that, but we'll have to keep that.
Okay,
a little bit of an idea around that. So.
Let's make that happen. We stopped having guests on the show like regularly because it was just such a scheduling snafu, and it's hard enough to do it as it is. Yeah. Given that both of us have day jobs, so but I do want to figure out how to do that.
Whenever you want to talk crypto, I'm up for managing around schedules.
No. So. Well, yeah, I do have some ideas. I'll talk to you about it later about how we do kind of a crossover one that would be fun. So
sounds good.
But anyway,
BeautyCon.
Oh yeah, definitely by then.
There he goes. He blew it. There's my idea. So anyway.
Dude, that's not a secret.
Can't keep any secrets.
Nobody listens anyway, so it's gonna be okay.
There's not even a like. What are the odds we're having a CutieCon this year with the Corona?
Not till September. We're good.
Corona reschedule.
You might. I think you'll be good. I think you'll be good.
So
good. I didn't check your model in September. See what happens.
Trust me, it goes out there. So.
No, my model only has this part. It doesn't have.
It doesn't have the after the curve. We're flattening the curve in those lower ones, and we got to get on the backside of the curve.
Hashtag flatten the curve.
We'll be on backside. We'll be on backside of the curve by then. So, but all right, we've kind of kept Blake long enough. Blake, dude, thanks as always, man.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Don't forget.
Always. Oh yeah, got to rate. You got to do beer rating. Matthew, go with your beer. What are you rating yours?
I mean, I'm not an IPA fan, but I'm gonna go with a 4.5.
Pliny gets a 4.5. I like it from Matthew. That's solid. Blake, I mean, you've had a million different Sierra Nevada Pale Ales, but like it's such a standard. On a scale of 1 to 5, 0 to 5, 5 being the best, how would you rate it?
I mean, I'm a net promoter of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which would mean I'd have to be a 5 according to that scale. But like, I'm going to reserve the 5 for like truly spectacular beers. So like, this is my standard go-to. Like, I always like it, so I think it's a solid 4.
Okay. Yep, that's good. And
0.75 if you want. Like you can go with increments of 0.25.
You don't need to.
Yeah, we don't need to overcomplicate things like your financial models.
That's right. We got a 4. A 4.5.
Oh,
we're going to go there. You want me to talk about the bug I found in Jirav today?
Let's not go there.
See, there we go. But I'm gonna go 3.5. I like it, but it's
not 3.5. Come on.
It's a great can. It's a great can. The beer's, it's okay.
It's for emergencies.
It's for emergencies. So anyway, if it keeps me safe during the coronavirus outbreak, I'll bump it up a bit. So
anyway. I bet their sales are going way up.
It should be. Yeah. Well, appreciate you guys being on. Cheers. One last cheers. And
gentlemen,
thanks everyone for tuning in.
Great to see you both.
See ya.